Deputy Broughan.
Second, Cora. Minister, I note that the Minister for Housing has come forward with a proposal for rent controls, which I think is long overdue. And I note also the bitter opposition already expressed by the Fianna Fáil party, I think, to having any kind of control of rents. But just to ask, is it intended to introduce legislation in that regard? And could I ask you, secondly, you come forward yourself with some interesting proposals in relation to the tax. You've come forward with some interesting proposals in relation to the taxation of oil and gas concessions going forward. I'm struck by the fact, though, that in these departments and also, say, the Department of Education, other departments, we seem to have some wonderful innovations coming forward in the last couple of weeks, because there seems to be a fin de siècle feel now to this government, Minister. Would you agree? We've a lot of very interesting innovations coming forward. It looks like in the days before this government will be changed utterly and many ministers will be departing. Is that the case?
Well, I mean, that's none of the other business. You know that. Well, I mean, you know that. It's not up to him to decide whether the government is changing or not.
I do. I would like to respond. The government is afflicted neither by a fin de siècle weariness or a fin de siesta either. And if we go back to Deputy Broughan's question about rent controls, the issue really is prompted by the supply side problem at the moment. And there is a supply side problem. And unfortunately, it's not a problem that can be resolved overnight. It takes time to build houses, even if the investment was there. And my colleague, Minister Howlin, is working on a proposal at the moment. I hope that he is close to finessing it for an announcement, in addition to what has been announced by the Minister for Housing. It is remarkable that, you know, a year ago you couldn't sell a house in most parts of this country, and now prices are rising again. But when you look at the financial constraints, when you look at unanticipated constraints, like, for example, builders left standing who have the capacity to build houses are finding it difficult to source credit because of their recent record with the lending institutions. And one suspects that the lending institutions aren't overly upset about this, because it helps their internal ratios in preparation for the stress tests in autumn. So there are definite supply side issues there, and whether for a short period some element of rent controls are necessary is an issue that the Minister for Housing has been looking at and has sought legal advice on. Ideally, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have rent controls, but we are in a period where it will take, between clearing sites, design, planning permissions, everything else that goes with this, it takes between 12 and 18 months to get a housing output like we need again in this economy. We are never going back to the days when we were producing 90,000 houses per annum, for all of the reasons that we know. But the construction sector is functioning at about half of what would be normal in a normal economy. There is capacity to double the workforce that are involved at the moment in construction, and that's the challenge facing the government, is to recast this economy, not just to go back to the way that we were doing it before. As regards the oil and gas, what did you ask me? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. The tax, the changes in the fiscal regime will have to be reflected in the finance bill, and will be so reflected.
Thank you.